Welcome to the Monday edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 250, the Banter Brothers edition. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger, and today's October 10th, 2016.
Why can't you guys record on a regular schedule? What is it? What you just can't sit down on a one day a week and just press record? No, we can't. Things happen. George is a full-time priest. I run a business, and I travel frequently with Anglican TV. I got to spend a whole weekend with Lord Carey, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, who was teaching a conference up in Albany called The Holiness, Walk Through the Doors of Holiness. It was awesome. I put the videos on Anglican TV. Please watch them. George went through, what's it called? It's a hurricane. I don't want to make too much light of it because there's a lot of damage in Haiti, but George, you've been through many hurricanes.
8 or 9, beginning in Hurricane Andrew in 78 or 79.
All right. Well, it looks like there was some damage to the church. I don't see your bookcases or books. Did you freeze?
What happened? Well, no, Kevin. I mean, we did have damage at the church.
Yes.
We are on the west. We were at the far western edge of the gale force winds, and the only damage we have, oddly enough, was the Episcopal Church flag was shredded on the flagpole by the winds. But Old Glory held its own, and so the American flag still proudly flies above Shepherd of the Hills, while the Episcopal flag has been taken down.
And shredded.
And well, it was shredded before it was taken down. No, this past we have changed my office. I've lost my office in the church because we are growing so rapidly and are so confined with space. We have turned my office into used to look like a scene from Goodbye, Mr. Chips, sort of a tatty
Books,
oriental
yeah,
carpet,
absolutely.
books, pictures of sporting teams and of retired bishops on the wall. And I felt that was not as good a use of the space as we could make it because we don't have Sunday school facilities. So we've turned my office into the Sunday school room. And what the screen is now hiding is, instead of a bookcase containing volumes of Tacitus and New Testament commentaries, it's screening the complete VeggieTales collection and the all sorts of children's materials. So I am filming from the Sunday school at Shepherd of the Hills Episcopal Church.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, neither one of us have a sterile environment. This is actually our third attempt at recording today. Outside here, they've decided to add sealant to the top of the... Oh, look at that.
Yes, these were on my chair when I came in this morning.
Those are some
Little
big
Jesus
earrings.
loves. Well, I was going to make a George Carey joke, but I'm not going to do that now.
So they're adding sealant to the top of our parking lot, and it's been rather noisy. The first time George and I taped, you hear this thud, thud, thud as they're throwing these 5-gallon sealant things off the top of a trailer, and we hope to get this one done, but we know our material pretty well, so if we sound bad, it's just because we don't know what we're talking about. We mentioned the hurricane. The hurricane also hit Haiti, and from all reports, we haven't got the reports from West Haiti yet.
Yes, it passed over the Western Peninsula, and communications still are incomplete, but at least 1,000 people have died. 80% of the town of Jacmel and Les Cayes were flattened by the winds and the storm surge and the rains. So the death toll will certainly rise.
It will, and this is different because during the earthquake, Port-au-Prince was leveled. A lot of the east and internal part of Haiti was just flattened, but left standing was the west side. And now this has been absolutely devastated by the hurricane.
Before the earthquake, there were 28 institutions of higher education in Haiti. The earthquake destroyed 24. The 4 that were not destroyed were in these 2 towns, and guess what? They've now been destroyed.
Yeah.
So I do not think there's any functioning institution of higher learning. There's an Episcopal Church Technical College teaches business skills in Les Cayes, Bishop
Mm.
Tharp Institute, and initial reports are that's been completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Uh,
So please keep Haiti in your prayers. Keep the East Coast of America in your prayers. People have died because they couldn't have access to emergency services. People have been died because of the flooding in Haiti. If you can donate to the Red Cross or to the Anglican Relief and Development or any other functioning ministry that helps out there on the ground in Haiti, please do. Um, you
Not the
know,
Clinton Foundation.
Not the Clinton Foundation. We don't
Oh,
want
we're
to get
not
into
doing
politics.
politics, Kevin.
No, we're
I'm
not going to do
sorry.
politics. We do Anglican politics, not American politics. Now, there's been a lot of stories since we recorded last. They're hard to follow. First, there was a wedding in Rome between the Archbishop of Canterbury and Pope Francis. We'll
And the
get to that.
story of that, and the big story is though, who was not invited to that wedding?
Right. Who was not invited to the wedding? The GAFCON and Global South are working together quite well and have put out a nice doctrinal statement that follows up to Lambeth 110. We'll talk about that. And then those people who you remember that primates meeting back in Canterbury back in January, February. The Episcopal Church was told they can't represent the Anglican Communion in any shape or form for a period of 3 years because they had same-sex weddings. You know what happened. Well, they showed up in Rome and represented the Anglican Church there. So George and I are going to compile this all together and let you know what happened. George, first let's talk about GAFCON and the Global South. There was a meeting in Cairo called the Global South to South Connection.
Yeah, the first tour of GAFCON and the Global South. What's the difference? They set political terms. One would be the right, and the other would be the center right. GAFCON. GAFCON is the group that has already taken the battle to the Archbishop of Canterbury. It's been was led by Eliud Wabukula of Kenya. It's now led by Nicholas Oko of Nigeria. Global South is led by Munir Anis of Egypt, holds the same doctrinal positions as GAFCON, but they have been willing to work with the Archbishop of Canterbury. They're willing to give the system a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And the unique, wonderful thing about this meeting was that the two now are on the same page. They've always been on the same page in terms of doctrine, but now they're on the same page in terms of discipline and action. They released two fantastic documents, a final communique that basically went through the problems of the Anglican world and including talking about the Church of England and saying, look, you guys, if you continue down the road that you're taking towards regularizing gay marriage in some form, the position of the Church of England and the Archbishop of Canterbury will have to be re-examined within the wider Anglican world.
This is the Global South. This is the people who've always, no matter what, defaulted to working within the system. That's big.
But from my ears, my mind, my heart, the bigger statement was an appendix, as it's been described to me by Andrew Gross of the ACNA, to the communique on human sexuality, where in the words of Bill Love, Bishop of Albany of the Episcopal Church, who was present at the meeting, it was the best statement the Anglican world has put out on homosexuality and what to do about the issues that he's ever seen, and I agree with him.
I do too. I mean, we all know Lambeth 110 talks about the role of marriage and the role of, homosexuality and how it's perceived in the church. And it's a great statement. People has always referred to it. This is the teaching of and understanding of the Anglican Communion. But there's never been a good follow-up description. What does that all mean? Why do we believe what we believe? And here we have, a Nicene level document from the primates of the Anglican Communion, not all of them, but certainly the ones who care enough to sit down and get it right, that really put forth why we believe this, where it is in Scripture, how we've come to understand this through the terms of human anthropology and where we are today, and wow, well, like Bill Love said, finally. This is as good as it gets, and it really is.
A prominent Episcopal activist, Susan Russell, the Reverend Susan Russell, from All Saints in Pasadena, tweeted a message to me after I released the text of this, essentially saying same old story on this homosexuality, civil unions document, same-sex unions. And on one level, she's right, because the basic foundations and fundamentals haven't changed in 20 years
Hmm.
since this whole fight began. But what I think is different is that this is probably the most cogent, well written document I've seen in a long time. So
Hmm.
Susan Russell's right that there's nothing new here in that sense, that they've not rolled over or they've not now discovered new arguments, but rather the arguments really are polished and refined and speak to the basics that I believe really need to get out there to people who are struggling with understanding this issue.
I agree. When Susan Russell says same old, that's a good thing. That's a very
And
good thing.
another good thing, some of our viewers may disagree with this, but Bill Love of the Episcopal Church was there, and Bill Love was representing the communion partner bishops, as
Hmm.
they are loosely called. And there are about 15 communion partner bishops in the Episcopal House of Bishops, roughly 10% of the total. Plus, there are others who share their viewpoints but don't like to sign down on any party line. And essentially, what the GAFCON Global South movement has said to them is that we recognize you and we continue to be in full fellowship with you, and we will continue to support you.
Hmm.
There have been some who have pressed the line that the Episcopal Church is so tainted that anyone who has any relationship with them is ipso facto tainted too. I don't happen to believe that myself.
No,
I'm an Episcopal priest,
we let
but
Episcopalians watch
there
the
are
show.
people
So
uh, espouse that line.
hmm.
And what has happened is that the ACNA is fully integrated into the Global South GAFCON movement. They're fully accepted. They're fully part of that world, as are those members of the Episcopal Church who hold fast to the faith handed to them by their forefathers. So
so
there are two American presences in
mhm.
this room,
North American
and
presences, yeah.
sensitive.
Now, we alluded to the wedding of Rome and Canterbury. There hasn't really been an official wedding of GAFCON and Global South, but they're working well together. And this is, this document shows the product of that. Now, okay, we alluded to I said the word marriage between Rome and the Anglican Church. Not quite there yet, but this last week, the Archbishop of Canterbury was in Rome for the 50th anniversary of one of the bigger acronyms in Anglicanism. And he and the Pope decided to get the band together, and they're going to send out some bishops in a joint ministry together. I don't understand this, George. What's happening?
Okay. Several things happened simultaneously. First, that scheduled meeting of the International Anglican Roman Catholic Commission on Unity and Mission, IARCM.
Hmm.
That's one of these church dialogue commissions that meets every year or so and issues reports on how we can be nice to Catholics and Catholics can be nice to
And
us.
this year was the 50th anniversary.
This year was the 50th anniversary of the beginning of these talks,
Mm.
which commenced with ARCIC, the Anglican Roman Catholic International Consultation, and also the 50th anniversary of the Anglican Center in Rome, which is which is sort of a semi-official, unofficial Anglican embassy to the Vatican in a nice Italian palazzo in Rome.
Wow.
Plus, Archbishop Welby and Pope Francis met. So you've got IARCM, Anglican Center, and Welby and Francis meeting. IARCM came up with a plan to twin uh, Catholic and Anglican bishops in a number of provinces to go out and do mission together. So IARCM chose the bishops. And part of the festivities was that Francis and Welby commissioned these bishops, and in these commissionings, they were joined by some of the primates of the Anglican Communion. Now, we alluded to who was not invited to this party. Well, the GAFCON primates were not invited to this party. So Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and so on and so forth do not have twinned bishops. The Episcopal Church, Anglican Church of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the liberal provinces, by and large, have twinned bishops with Catholics. And even amongst the bishops themselves, there's considerable variation. The Episcopal bishop chosen to twin with his Catholic counterpart is one of the communion partner bishops, Bishop Bauerschmidt, who's actually one of the remaining good guys. But you go north, the Dennis Drainville is the Canadian choice, and he's one of the flag bearers for the gay movement.
Yeah.
The Australian Parks of Wangaratta, who's one of the most vocal pro-gay activists. And then you go to Central Africa, and one of the best friends of the Diocese of Fort Worth, Fanul Mangani, he's the partner. So there's some great things there, and there's some things that are absolute jokes. And Welby and Francis, made speeches about peace, love, and happiness, global warming, mosquito nets, and
then they took Holy Communion together. Oh, no.
no, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Oh.
They went to evening prayers, vespers, which is sort of like going to a school chapel assembly.
Yeah, okay, so
it's nice, but it's
so it's a bunch of show, and we still don't have an open communion, open table.
absolutely. In other words, some of the things that some people were hoping to see was in the Anglican eyes, the Anglican world are not churches. We are ecclesial communities.
That's correct.
The Catholics will recognize the Orthodox as churches, but not us. We're ecclesial communities like the Baptists, Lutherans, Methodists. And if you read all through the documents, even though we're all followers of Christ and this and that, we're still not a church.
No.
And there's a statement that, well, we disagree on issues of sexual ethics and women bishops. We'll still be nice to each other. So what they're saying is that we're not going to agree. We can't agree. It's impossible for us to agree on things that divide us right now. We'll just be kind and try to do things together along social justice and economic empowerment lines. Now, I like to contrast all those sort of fluff statements that could have come out of any UN meeting, any political gathering, with the documents that came out of Cairo.
Yeah.
And one thing that came out of Cairo that struck me in particular came from the Archbishop of Myanmar, which is Burma, Stephen Tan Mint U, who said the basic issues facing us is the satanic domination of the church over the past 20 years.
Wait a minute. There's an archbishop in the Anglican communion who understands what's going on.
Yes, and this is no Oral Roberts type kook,
No.
Basically, Bishop Stephen, who, by the way, was a political prisoner once under the Burmese government. This is a man who has suffered for the faith. He's basically saying our enemies are not flesh and blood. We're not fighting Catherine Jefferts Schori and company. We're fighting Satan. Yeah. And Satan seeks to destroy us and divide us. And we need our forces. Munir Anis in his opening speech in Cairo said, yes, we need to address these issues of migration and poverty and this and that. But the bottom line is, folks, that the church is here to preach the good news of Jesus Christ. And Archbishop Stephen of Burma basically said, yes, we have to be faithful to that call and realize our enemy is Satan, and that's who we're fighting. Right. And for me, that's such a refreshing thing to hear.
It is. Okay, we've run out of time for this episode. Next time we get together, we need to talk about South Africa. So hopefully we can record maybe by Friday. There's lots of other news stories, but we want to have mercy on you and grace and let you just have 17 minutes of Anglican Unscripted and not clog you down with too much information. This is a lot to deliver. GAFCON and the Archbishop of Canterbury with Rome all in one episode. George, you have yourself a good week. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger, and you've been watching episode 250 of Anglican Unscripted.